All right, let's talk about a real cautionary tale from the world of Proxmox. We're going to dive into a story about how a seemingly simple, quiet afternoon upgrade can just go completely off the rails. It reveals a surprisingly common pitfall, so we're going to break down exactly what went wrong and, more importantly, how you can make sure it never ever happens to you. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? We've all been there. What starts as a painless 5-minute update somehow becomes a desperate late-night scramble under a desk. If you've ever felt that very specific kind of tech-induced panic, yeah, you know exactly what we're talking about. So picture this. A Homelab admin is all set to upgrade their Proxmox cluster, going from version 8 to 9. They've done their prep, they've got their backups, and for a little extra guidance, they pull up a video tutorial. But this right here, this is where the trap was set. What looked like a totally safe path was about to lead straight into chaos. So, what was the fatal flaw? It wasn't some random hardware failure or a power outage. It was this: blindly trusting a series of commands copied from a video without cross-referencing them against the official Proxmox documentation. That single decision, that's the tiny hinge on which this whole disaster swings. Okay, so how does one wrong command completely torpedo an entire system? Well, the fascinating part is that it wasn't one huge, obvious screw-up. No. It was a couple of small, really subtle mistakes that created this massive cascade of failure. The whole problem kicked off with the software sources, the repos. The commands from the video tutorial were just slightly wrong. They ended up mixing the paid enterprise repos with the free, no-subscription ones. That one little mix-up immediately corrupted the system's package list. It basically poisoned the well, sending the whole update process into total confusion. And as if the wrong repos weren't bad enough, it gets even better. A single typo. Just one letter off in the Debian codename for the new version. Trixie instead of Trixie. That's it. That alone was enough to completely break the apt package manager. It is the perfect example of how a tiny, easy-to-miss error can cause a catastrophic failure. Now, here's another super crucial detail, and it's one that's really easy to miss if you're not looking for it. Newer versions of Debian, which, Proxmox is built on, they changed how they manage software sources. They moved away from that one big classic sources.list file to a whole directory of smaller .sources files. If you're not aware of this change, well, you're walking straight into the next trap. And yup, because our admin didn't know about that new format, the command they ran didn't just add the new Proxmox source, it completely overwrote the essential Debian sources for the operating system itself. At that very moment, the system was fundamentally broken, stuck halfway through an upgrade, and totally unable to find the core packages it needed to fix itself. So we've seen the root causes: a bad command, a typo. But the real story here is the domino effect that happens next. See, these little errors, they don't just exist in a vacuum. They trigger this system-wide cascade of failures that gets incredibly hard to untangle really fast. It's a fair question, right? Is this just, a minor headache? Or is it a genuine pull-your-hair-out catastrophe? Well, according to other users who found themselves in the exact same boat, the answer is, oh, it can get very, very bad. And this right here is what a lucky outcome looks like. This person had to completely nuke their entire cluster and just start from scratch. The only thing that saved them from a total data loss was having solid and, more importantly, tested backups. Without that safety net, they'd be rebuilding everything by hand. I absolutely love this line because it pivots us to another critical point. It's like a law of the universe. Just when your software is failing because of a bad command, your hardware often decides it's the perfect time to betray you too. And the universe just has this wicked sense of humor. Imagine it. Your remote KVM dies when the upgrade is 75% done, forcing you to crawl under a desk. Or your BIOS suddenly decides to just shuffle the boot order for fun. Or your network card drops its IP address mid-reboot. It's true. Hardware has a sixth sense for when you are most vulnerable. And this just adds that little bit of gallows humor that every sysadmin can appreciate. Because let's be honest, All these problems are exponentially more stressful when you're dealing with a Proxmox cluster, where one failing node can bring down the whole house of cards. All right, enough of the doom and gloom. We've seen the disaster in all its glory, so now let's talk prevention. We can distill all this chaos down into a clear, actionable guide that turns that fear into empowerment. This is how you avoid that frantic late-night triage session. Okay, so here's your pre-flight checklist. It's non-negotiable. 1. Read the official documentation. All of it. Then read it again. 2. If you're going to use a video, have the official docs open right next to it and check every single command. 3. A backup you haven't actually tested is not a backup. It's just a wish. And 4. Check your repository files before you even think about typing apt upgrade. And the checklist continues. First, Proxmox gives you this amazing tool, the PVE 8 to 9 check script. Use it. It is literally designed to catch these exact kinds of problems. Next, be physically prepared for things to go wrong. Have a keyboard, a monitor, a console cable. Have it ready to go. And finally, give yourself way more time than you think you'll need. Never, ever rush an upgrade, because Murphy's Law just loves a tight deadline. So we've covered typos, we've covered bad repos, and failing hardware. But when you boil it all down, what is the one fundamental mistake that sits right at the heart of this entire mess? You know, it always starts small. A single missed entry in a configuration file. It seems like nothing, just a tiny detail you could easily overlook. But that one tiny detail, it snowballs. It leads to a failed package install. And that failure means the system won't boot. And just like that, everything is down. And that unbootable system, well, it becomes your problem. It becomes a 2 a.m. scramble with a USB stick in one hand and a cold coffee in the other. That right there, that is the real cost. And this is the real lesson. The most dangerous error isn't the technical one. It's a failure of process, a failure of diligence. It's the mindset of assuming you know enough to skip the instructions and just wing it. That's the mindset that leads you straight to disaster. In the end, it really comes down to this, doesn't it? The cost of skipping a step isn't just downtime. It's that heart-stopping moment of realization. So the next time a big upgrade comes up, just remember this story. Read the docs, be prepared, and make sure your quiet afternoon project actually stays quiet. Thanks for tuning in.